Bangladesh has gone to polls amidst tensions and tumult. Violence and arson have marred the election exercise over the course of the past few months. We have seen how trains and buses have been torched over the last few days, but even as the elections were underway, 18 polling booths were set on fire. Such incidents were reported from Sunamganj, Gazipur, Satkhira, Sherpur, Chattogram, Shariatpur, Barguna and Natrakona districts, amongst others. Meanwhile, security deployment was tightened, especially in Dhaka, as voters queued up to cast their mandate. What's interesting is that people have turned out to vote in these elections despite a boycott staged by the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party. The larger question, though, remains, even amidst alleged meddling by the West, what exactly will happen next in Bangladesh? Sheikh Hasina is certainly eyeing her 5th term. She's spoken about India shortly after casting her vote today.
Prime Minister, Madam, your message to the India, because India is closely.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. We are very lucky. We have so many. No, equally, yeah, this time. Yes.
So my message to you that what's your appeal to the voters?
Well, India is our tested friend during our liberation war. They supported us. Not only that, after 75, when we lost, we told sister, you can see, when we lost our whole family, father, mother, brothers, everybody, only we two survived. So they gave me shelter. So we have our best wishes to the people of India.
And joining us live is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat. We also have Colonel T.P. Tyagi, senior defence expert. Joining us live, Professor D.K. Giri, international affairs expert, is also live with us. Let me begin with you first, Ambassador Sikri. All eyes now on the results, although it is, quite clear to many that Sheikh Hasina is going to come back to power in these elections. How do you view these elections, how they've panned out, with a lot of arson, a lot of violence, and of course also a boycott by the opposition BNP?
Yes, I think the elections, they were the normal parliamentary democracy elections held every 5 years. And the BNP knew that these elections would be held without a caretaker government, because they knew well in advance, because the Bangladesh Supreme Court had declared the system of caretaker government unconstitutional. In a parliamentary democracy, you can't have a non-elected head of government. So they had declared it unconstitutional. And although they had said, if you want, you can have 1 or 2 elections under the caretaker system, but the Sheikh Hasina government had decided that once and for all, they passed a constitutional amendment saying that caretaker government would no longer be in force. So after that, for the BNP to then insist that we will join the elections only if there's a caretaker government, this was really showing that they were perhaps not seriously interested in taking part in the elections. And there are a lot of stories about that, why it was like that. Maybe, Begum Khaleda Zia, the long-time leader and former prime minister, the BNP leader, her health is very poor, and so she has not really been active in politics at all. It's her son living in London for the last 15 years or so who is perhaps calling the shots. So there's a lot of speculation about why he decided to give the decision not to participate in the elections. But that being on one side, what was terrible is that although political party rallies were allowed for the BNP, and on October 28th there was a very big rally, but it's the arson, the violence that happened during the rally. A policeman was killed, some other people lost their lives, which has really caused a lot of concern, because the people of Bangladesh today, all they want more than anything else is stability, a good society, economic prosperity, development, and these kind of random violence does not really cause them any joy at all. Rather, it's a matter of great distress. And there has been continuing arson. You yourself described just now how even polling centers have faced arson, and trains have been burnt and buses have been burnt. But till the very end, even as we speak, till tomorrow morning, the BNP has called its final hartal, calling upon everybody to boycott the elections and not even to vote. So as a result of all this, we've seen in the elections that the turnout till 3 p.m. was just around 30%, a little less than 30%. Maybe by the time the polling centers shut at 4 p.m., maybe the election voting percentage may have gone up to about 40 or a little more than 40. And we'll know the results by tomorrow morning. So it's all right. right? It's a fair enough vote in, in as many things go. And participation was there by the Jatiya Party. The Jamaat-e-Islami, the Islamist party of Bangladesh, was not participating because the Supreme Court had debarred their participation because of their constitution. The constitution of these Jamaat-e-Islami is not in consonance with the constitution of Bangladesh. So there were a number of smaller parties, 26 or 27 parties. There were multiple candidates in some Awami League, well-known Awami League constituencies as well. We'll know tomorrow morning the results. It is expected that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina will return for a fifth term. But I certainly hope that there will be an opposition group as well. Let us hope so, because there are a number of smaller parties, newer parties, and not so new parties. And I think an opposition has an important role to play in a democracy. But I think that once the elections are out of the way, I think Sheikh Hasina will now concentrate on economic growth, continuing the economic growth, on economic development, on some of the problems the economy has been facing, the ready-made garments and other sectors, and will continue with Bangladesh on the track towards prosperity and taking them out of the least developed countries category by 2026.
Ambassador Pina Sikri, also, what is, the very low turnout really tell us, though, about, this election process and also the kind of violence? Is that a common, occurrence every Bangladesh election, or was this one particularly different from the others before this?
No, not at all. In fact, if anything, the violence perhaps was a little less. I remember the 2014 elections when there was a tremendous amount of violence. Where similarly, Begum Khalida Zia lost the election in 2008 when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came to power with a huge majority. That was when the BNP was an active participant in the election. And then subsequently after that, they've been bringing up this thing. In 2014 election, they decided to boycott. And perhaps if they had participated, they may even have won. But they boycotted. And along with the boycott, they brought in a huge amount of violence, burning school buses, and children lost their lives. And it was really looked upon very poorly and very angrily by the people of Bangladesh. So while violence has been endemic in Bangladesh elections, but as prosperity comes to Bangladesh, as the strong middle class grows, the middle class is a big force for stability in the country, they don't want this kind of violence. They don't want random violence. They don't want, you go out to buy your vegetables and then you encounter violence and lose your life. I mean, that's not what you want in your country. So this violence has not been received well at all. But the fact of the fear of violence, especially because beginning Friday and Saturday and continuing till Monday, they called for a final hartal, and they actually called for boycotting of election. Now, that's not very correct. You may not take part yourself. That choice is there with any political party not to participate in an election. But to tell the voters to boycott the election, that is really something that has not gone down too well. But people may have stayed away because of that. I think for a 40% voting percentage is all right. It's not high. It's about average, I would say, taking into account the previous election. It's about average.
Yes. Okay, let me, take that to Colonel Tyagi as well. Colonel Tyagi, a lot of violence has, of course, marred this election. Today, too, was no different. What is your assessment of the run-up to the election? What has caused this violence? Who was behind it? And also, the way today's polling has been conducted.
Everybody is talking about violence, but it is to be seen with a sense of proportion. In a 12 crore of Bangladesh, there are 4,200 polling booths, and about 18 polling booths have been burnt or they have been demolished, whatever it may be. So 18 in a percentage of 4,200 is not much. One. Secondly, has it happened for the first time? It happened in far more proportions in 2014. Hence, violence is only the point on which this election should be boycotted or should it not be declared as a good election. I don't think that is a good reason. Secondly, now the victory of Sheikh Hasina is almost guaranteed. The reasons are many. The first reason is very clear that she happens to be the daughter of the liberator of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Secondly, as you are aware, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Khalid Zia, she was not interested in taking part in the election. She boycotted the election, but the way the hartal was called that no, nobody should vote. Now this is something anti-democratic, and she was anti-democratic because it was Khalida Zia who turned the country into an Islamic state. Who turned it into a secular and democratic state? It was Sheikh Hasina. And Sheikh Hasina, it is good for India, but that we will discuss a bit later. But one good thing, she has brought out Bangladesh from a state of poverty, from a state of misery to a developing state. Imagine today the GDP of Bangladesh is 7.1%, far ahead of Pakistan, of which Bangladesh used to be a part one of the time. And she is doing far many balancing acts between different powers, even between India and China. Imagine the trade with China is 25 billion. The trade with India is 15 billion. But see that immediately after casting her vote, what she said. She said that we are lucky that India is our friend. She said that India helped us secure our independence. She said that in 1975, when our family was butchered, at that time, who gave us shoulder? It was India who gave us shoulder. And with India, as far as we are concerned, 3 rail routes, 3 bus routes have been developed. And the most important thing is that after turning a Islamic country into a secular and democratic country, she said zero tolerance for terrorism. And she announced that not even an inch of ground of my country has been allowed by the territories, or has been allowed to the terrorists to do any terrorist activity either in India or in Myanmar. Means that she believes in development, she believes in good relations with countries, she believes not in polarization and going with one country, but balancing with different countries, multinational relations. Imagine just like India, we are balancing Russia and America.
Yes.
Number of examples we have done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Professor Giri, let me quickly draw you in here on the low voter turnout. What is your opinion on the polling, how it's panned out today, and is it about certain that Sheikh Hasina will be coming back?
The low turnout also indicates the less enthusiasm among the voters. And like Colonel Tyagi was saying, that one major opposition party has boycotted the elections. So then, of course, the turnout is low. So it's not a good reflection on Bangladesh democracy. But as Colonel Tyagi said, it is good for India because she is a good friend of India. And there are 2 types of reactions to these elections. One is external, another is internal. I'm not sure if many Bangladeshis are happy with this one-party rule. But for Indians, it's a good development. Donald Trump was a good friend of India, but many Americans thought he pushed America into democratic backslide. So that is it. I have talked to Bangladeshi friends, and we think that Sheikh Hasina is more moderate and progressive than Khalida Zia. True, but they think it is a Nelson choice for them, from either of the parties. So, yes, as an Indian, I would welcome her into her 4th term, or 5th, I think. But it should also be good for the people. The foreign policy is a function of what you do at home, your domestic conditions. In that sense, one would call out Bangladesh for being repressive and not being very accommodative. If you remember the Grameen Bank fellow who opposed Sheikh Hasina, he is about to be put in jail. He has got a Nobel Prize for what he has done, lifted a lot of women out of poverty. Yeah, but yet he is in crosshairs with the government, and he may be imprisoned anytime. That's not a good development. So but that is their internal matter.
Right. In fact, we also have another very special guest joining us now. Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry is also live with us, editor of Blitz Bangladesh. Welcome to the show, sir. What is the biggest election issue that voters voted on today?
The biggest issue in Bangladesh today is this election, which is taking place. We can say it's a war between secularist forces and Islamist forces. And in one hand, there is Awami League led by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, which has already shown tremendous progress and prosperity during the past 15 years. And they are going to continue this process of progress and prosperity and combating terrorism in this country. On the other hand, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which is termed as Tier 3 terrorist organization by US courts, and its allies, Jamaat-e-Islami, they would like to capture power and turn Bangladesh into a neo-Taliban state. So today's election is a war between evils and forces of salvation for this country.
Yes. Why so much violence, though, Mr. Chaudhry, this election?
Actually, as you know, that if you have been seeing the video news coverage about Bangladesh, the last night, Bangladesh Nationalist Party tried to have certain terrorist attack in this country by using IED explosives, which my newspaper Blitz has already reported a few days ago that Bangladesh Nationalist Party brought a bomb maker, expert bomb maker from Pakistan, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP. And with the help of that bomb maker, Bangladesh Nationalist Party has prepared explosives. And yesterday there was a recovery of such IEDs. And in one incident, 19 lives have been saved because they planted this bomb inside a bus. But fortunately, it did not explode because it was somehow identified. On the other hand, last night in Rajbari district, one Hindu village police, Ranjit Kumar Das, aged 45, he was slaughtered by the members of BNP and Jamaat. And today, when we are talking to you, it is just 1 p.m. in Dhaka. There are certain minor problems in 53 polling stations in this country. There are also very minor cases of vote rigging or fake votes. But overall situation until now is very peaceful. Before talking to you, I have visited more than 14 polling stations in Dhaka city. And my reporters are also covering many polling stations in other districts. So until now, there is no report of any major violence or terrorist attack or whatever.
Do you believe Khalida Zia failed to keep her party together this election?
I mean, Khalida Zia is in prison.
Yeah.
She is serving a prison term for misappropriating the fund of the orphanages. So this party, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is now under the command of Khalida Zia's son, Tariq Rahman. And Tariq Rahman is a convicted terrorist for attempting to assassinate Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in 2004, 21st of August, through grenade attacks. And again, he has been also handed life sentence for supplying weapons to insurgency group in northeastern part of India, Ulfa. So Tariq Rahman, sitting in London, is now controlling those activities of BNP in Bangladesh. I can say terrorist activities. Reason behind Bangladesh Nationalist Party's decision to boycott this election is actually BNP does not want to participate into election or come to power through any democratic process. they are willing to come to power through the Iranian pattern so-called Islamic revolution, or they want to somehow return to power with the help of Biden administration by exerting undue pressure on Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, and they want her to resign. These are all undemocratic demands Tariq Rahman and Bangladesh Nationalist Party is making. So in my opinion, BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is already, because of its ultra-Islamist and pro-caliphate ideologies, it has been isolated, rejected by these people of Bangladesh. And today, when they called on the people to boycott the election, people did not boycott the election. So if you ask me what may happen next, as I said, after January 7, PNP will resort to extended terrorist activities. They will also attempt to mobilize media assault on Sheikh Hasina and Awami League with the help of their lobbyists and PR agencies in the Western countries. But under any circumstances, Bangladesh is having good relations with its neighboring countries and foreign countries. And I don't believe that any country in the world, including India, they don't want destabilized Bangladesh. So for the sake of stability of Bangladesh, today's election is very important. And when the election ends today at 5 p.m., 4 hours from now, Islamists and jihadist forces, they will be initially defeated.
Now, what about Sheikh Hasina's handling of the economy? Have people largely been happy with that?
Thank you very much for asking this important question. Are people happy with Sheikh Hasina? First of all, what people want? People want peace, people want progress, people want prosperity, and also people want democracy. Now, the way Sheikh Hasina is handling, Sheikh Hasina has no alternative to these, because another only alternative Sheikh Hasina has is to resign and hand over power to these Islamist and jihadist and caliphate mongers. And of course, I'd like to say here that unfortunately, Biden administration, they are banking on Bangladesh Nationalist Party and Jamaat-e-Islami with the agenda of turning Bangladesh into their colony and a neo-Taliban state. That people of Bangladesh understand what you are hearing about Bangladesh through the Western media. It is not the voice or it is not the opinion of the people of Bangladesh. It is the opinion of those Western agencies and the agents of the Western military-industrial complex. So people are, of course, happy. If people were not happy, BNP called upon the people to come on the street, protest, and force Sheikh Hasina to resign. People did not come to the street. Today, BNP called upon the people to stay at home and not go to the polling stations. But people are going to the polling stations. I have seen quite a long queue in many of the polling stations. So in other words, it's not a matter whether people accepted the policy of Sheikh Hasina. People accepted what is good for Bangladesh.
But, there have also been allegations, Mr. Chaudhary, of foreign interference this election. Be it from the US or China. How have people reacted to these charges and claims?
Look, people are not talking about foreign intervention. Yes, if we are talking about foreign intervention, people are against the intervention of Biden administration and the US. And now Bangladesh people in general, majority of the Bangladesh people, they know that India being a friendly neighbor and a time-tested friend of this country, they are in favor of a stable Bangladesh. So it is not a foreign intervention from Russia or China or India. I mean, in this case, our people don't consider anything like that. We consider intervention when the Westerners, they want to implement their blueprint in this country. So people in general, they are not seeing this today's election as a result of intervention of any country. This is a reflection of the will of the people of Bangladesh. We should remember that we have 170 million people. It is not that 170 million people are all in favor of Sheikh Hasina. There are a very large number of people who support BNP and Jamaat also, but those large number of people, they did not come to the street. They did not come to the street even today, or they did not try to somehow jeopardize this election. What does that mean? Meaning, those large number of BNP Jamaat supporters, they also don't support BNP's agenda of turning Bangladesh into a neo-Taliban state to serve the purpose of the Western countries.
Mr. Chaudhary, thank you very much for joining us from Bangladesh with your perspective on that story. Also, thanks to our other guests who joined us earlier.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.